These former daredevils have now cut the ties with their old lives in Derbyshire and have moved 250 miles away to the wilds of the Cornish coast.
Never lived by the sea. This has always been a dream.
Having sold their house to finance this project, they're about to sink everything they've ever worked for and their future happiness into a building on the verge of collapse.
We just fell in love with it. It was instant.
What are you hoping to do with it?
Well, it's been here for several hundred years and it's redundant as a mill, so it's never going to be a mill again. So we're going to make it and convert it into a beautiful home, but obviously try and maintain some of its heritage and you know, show people that it was a mill.
For just over 400 years, this building was grinding flour and animal feed and was still working in the 1960s. But for over half a century, it's been left abandoned. Partial collapse has helped damp get into the masonry. The windows and window lintels have rotted out. Leigh and Richard's most urgent job will be to tackle the stonework, rake out every inch of damp, rotten mortar made from earth and lime, rebuild areas of wall near collapse, and restore some structural integrity. Inside, the old timber workings of the mill will need to be carefully treated, as they're still helping to brace the walls. Leigh and Richard want to keep them, but will jumble them up as they reorganise the layout. Leigh and Richard's 250 grand is ebbing away fast, and they haven't even begun on the decaying interior. They had hoped to keep 80% of these timbers in situ, but the building hadn't told Leigh and Richard the full story.
Even though this beam on the whole may look good and solid, the critical area of it is where it goes into the wall. That's rotted away. As you can see, it's just turned into dust. So you can't use that.
Leigh and Richard have now decided that almost every single beam and joist will be replaced with new timber.
It's a German softwood, apparently. It's come from a local timber yard.
The new, straight and somewhat characterless timber goes in quickly. They use steel tension ties to help strengthen the floors and lock the building together. The speed of change on this project brings undesirable impacts for me.
All my life, I have loved old things and loved them for their cantankerousness and their wonkiness and their history and the stories they tell and the narratives they weave. And here it's just being ripped apart. I'm not sure what means anything anymore here.
There is, of course, one part of this building that is more in line with my conservation stance: the roof.
Originally, it was meant to be 2 definite bedrooms, but we loved it so much, we're actually going to leave it as one big open plan room.
You like this beautifully conserved roof?
I love it. This is one of my favourite places.
It's the best timber in the building by a long way.
I think it's the best timber in the building because it's the old timber.
The mill is finally rooted in its surroundings and looks like it's flourishing against this backdrop of abundance. I wonder if its occupants are too.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
We're good, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Let's go in.
On the ground floor, the Fred Flintstone dining tables still hint at the history of this place, and the simple, unfussy kitchen has remained surprisingly cosy for an old stone building. Last time, I could see a few traces of the past here in the old exposed timbers, but the stickler for conservation in me still wants to ask them how much of it is for real.
So tell me, how much of this space here is where it was?
Not that post, but a similar one was.
To this rail, did this connect to this post? Was this all new joinery?
It's new joinery, but with existing wood that was in the mill.
Okay. It's that kind of thing about puzzling over what's
new and what's...
Yeah, but what was working in the mill and what wasn't, and how it was doing it, you know.
We totally understand that, but the state of the timbers in the building was shocking. So to make the building survive, I just likened it to, it's like somebody having a major organ transplant, and that's what we had to do to make sure she survived.
We saved what we could.
And give it a new purpose.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
2.5 years on, I almost take Richard and Leigh's point that they are merely the most recent in a long line of occupants to have tinkered, tweaked, and rebuilt this mill. There's one big improvement since my last visit. The bedrooms are finished. 2 guest rooms occupy the second floor, each with an ensuite. And up top, Leigh and Richard's bedroom, nestled under the beautiful old trusses they managed to retain, complete with the original grain pulleys.
Gosh, this floor just benefits so much, doesn't it, from these hexagonal shapes. Each truss is a repetition of the next. And so nicely done and properly repaired.
We can trace the people that have leased it and owned it back to 1610. So really, we're just another name at the bottom of the list. And there will be names after us.
The spirit of the ancestors has infused the current inhabitants, a spell only a building with such deep roots has the power to perform.